Hi everybody and welcome back to Alicia Dianne Art. I'm Alicia Dianne and this is our book club for Cartoon Arts Center. So welcome to our community, everybody who's coming in from Cartoon Arts Center Pasadena, and wherever you are in the country and the world, just welcome and thank you for being here. Today is our final review. I can't believe that went by so fast. It's our final review of Perspective Made Easy. We officially completed the book by Ernest Norling. It was a really good read, and I'm going to be going over the last 4 points or 4 steps rather in this book. That's chapters 17 through 20. And this one was a little bit different than the previous ones. It started to get more specific and into like very sort of like, it feels like very like niche parts of like perspective, and some of it wasn't even perspective, it was more on the mechanical side of things. So I thought it was pretty interesting, and I'll cover a little bit steps each at a time. So we'll just go through those. Number 17, step 17 was about reflections. So in that step he really kind of went over just how you would approach a reflection. It's basically like the mirror image of, and it basically showed, like, I like the example where he had the two hands like holding it on a glass, and basically saying like if you held a piece of glass, a clear glass, showing like the left hand and in the opposite direction would be the same way that it would be if it was holding just a mirror in between your hands, because it's the reverse and opposite. So I thought that was a nice way to kind of simplify reflections. Another point that he kind of went through was just however far distant the object is from the reflective surface, it would also be in the reverse. So if you have, let's say, an object that's like dangling like a couple feet above a mirror, it's also going to be in the reflection. It's going to look like it's a couple feet below. So I thought that was also a good way that he broke that down. Another, in step 18, we went over unusual perspective. So that was basically like looking down or looking up. So it kind of described how you would approach perspective in if you were laying down on a bed, for example. Was one of the examples that he uses. If you were laying down flat, either like on a bed or laying in the grass, and you're looking straight up, or also if you're looking, like, let's say you're looking down at, like, there's a hole in the ground or there's like an elevator shaft and you're looking down. It explained that if you're looking up or if you're looking down, like if you're flat looking up or if you're looking straight down, it's always going to be 1 point perspective. So I had a really like an aha moment, because I never thought about it that way, and I never really like draw from that angle. But it's kind of nice to know that everything, when you're looking straight up, everything's going to a vanishing point straight up. There is no like 2 point perspective when you're looking down or looking up. So I thought that was a really nice way that he simplified that, and it made me like, oh, I understand. It's like so much better now. Like, the more I read this book, the more I realize I had like no understanding of perspective at all. And even as we're getting close to the end, he got like some points just like flew over my head. I'm just like, I'm not even gonna try to like understand it too much, because I already know that's like beyond me, and that's step 20. But let's go over step 19. And so he also went with like the looking up and looking down, and he covered like false eye level. So one of the things that he kind of talked about, like, let's say you're in San Francisco and you're driving uphill, and you have like a false, what is it called? A false eye level? Not a false eye level. What is it called? A false vanishing point. So like the vanishing point, is like on the horizon line. We cover that in the early steps. But this one, you see, if you're like driving uphill, it looks like the vanishing point is like somewhere in the sky. So it creates this secondary vanishing point, and then you have your actual eye level. So if you're looking straight at the diagonal up the hill, you're going to see like a false vanishing point, but then you have your eye level if you're looking straight ahead, which will be the horizon line. So I also never thought about it that way. I don't know why. It just never even crossed my mind. I don't even think that I've drawn in that sort of angle before, but it makes me want to experiment. I think the kind of cool thing too about kind of understanding it better is it kind of like, once you sort of understand it, it makes you want to play with it. So I think that I can use this kind of going forward in my illustration, in my graphic novel. I can kind of feel like I want to play with a little bit and have like a couple of more like exciting type of scenes that I wouldn't have thought to draw before. So I like that. I feel like I have a little bit more room to play around with that and how I want to show my angles. So I thought that was really good. Another thing that he did was like, where did he show like the buildings, like looking up and looking down on a building? I want to cover that real quick. Oh, that was in step 18. So I want to talk about that really quickly. It's also in a 1-point perspective, and you have like he showed like this cool view of like standing on top of a building looking down, and that would also be with a 1-point perspective. But I like that it's in a 1-point perspective, and it kind of simplifies things. I kind of can understand or wrap my head around the 1-point perspective a little bit easier. But it looked like these scenes from like Batman the animated series. It like brought me right back to those days when I was watching that in like the late 90s or like early 2000s, and it just has like these kind of cool views. I don't think I have any illustrations where I'm like at the top of a building, but maybe I can incorporate that somehow. So I did appreciate that. And step 20, that was a hard read. I had to kind of like force myself to get through it. I'm not gonna lie, some parts where I was just like, I'm not even gonna try to understand this. But he did kind of link it back to what we learned a little bit earlier in the book, which was creating that picture plane, which is basically like your viewing scope. So like just imagine that your drawing pad is like what a photographer would see through the little viewing point. So like basically that is your picture plane, like what you can see that you're able to put on the paper, like it's your viewing plane. And so he kind of harkened that back to like having your viewing plane and then flattening it. So instead of everything kind of standing up as they would in 3D, everything kind of flattens down. So this was like more for like architects, people that want to make like blueprints of things, or like very, very specific mechanical drawings. That was like the whole point of section 20. And he does like give us a little like, I want to say warning, but like I think it's like disclosure, like, you know, it's like this is just barely like an introduction to this. If you really want to get good at this, there's other books, which I understand completely, because this is a book called Perspective Made Easy. It's not an advanced perspective book. So I'm glad that he just even put that little like note in there. It's like, I'm just like letting you know that this exists. It does get harder, but this is just an introduction, and I'm simplifying it so that you are just aware of it. The reader, like you as the reader, are just aware that this is out there, and there's lots of books that go into detail. So if you want to like learn more or get like advanced with mechanical drawings, you can do that. But it was just an introduction. Parts of it I did not understand at all, but one thing I did understand that I appreciated was like right on the very last page, and what is called shortcuts. And I'm glad that he put the little shortcut in there. So basically he explained that if you do like a 2-point perspective, like a wall plane in a 2-point perspective, you can do like a what's the word? It's a perpendicular line. I'm like, I know it's something. It's like a perpendicular line. Is that right? Perpendicular is like this way, right? And then there's one that like crosses each other. So what is that called? When they are, I want to get the term right. I want to make sure I get it right. Or is that diagonal? It's oh, it is. I did that right. So it's like parallel or perpendicular. Okay. So perpendicular is this way, and then parallel is this way. So anyway, you can do like a perpendicular line, and then from there evenly space it out, and then you can kind of space things out that way. So I'm glad that he included the shortcut, because that is the only way that I would even get close to doing some type of mechanical drawing, is like with the little shortcut. I appreciated this book. Also, I was looking back at one of my older illustrations before. It was something I never finished before, and I realized why I did not apply like any perspective. I didn't like take the time to straighten out my lines and all of that, and I was just trying to like start painting from a thumbnail without like properly fixing everything. And like I noticed like, oh man, I learned so much from this book, and I'm really appreciative of that. So that was Perspective Made Easy. I give this book, How many stars did I give it? I give it an 8 out of 10. Let's give it an 8 out of 10 because it helped me to understand a lot, but there's some parts of it that I felt like, oh, I don't quite understand it. Especially like when we got to like the more mechanical or like advanced stuff, like it just over my head. All right, so our next book is Selling for Dummies. Selling is important because if you're an artist, you're also an entrepreneur, so I feel like it's really important to kind of understand the basics of selling. Trust me, I feel like it's so important. We all need a little bit of this, whether it's selling at conventions, trying to sell your work online, trying to sell yourself to, let's say, a client, like, like letting them know that you're worth whatever the price is that you're asking for. I think that we all can use it. So the book is called Selling for Dummies. I'm going to give you guys like 1 week to get the book. And so next week is like I'm going to be announcing, like I'm putting out, like you're going to get 1 week to get the book. And then from there, I'm going to announce which chapters we're going to read. So, okay, so next week we're going to start reading. So next Wednesday we start reading. And then the following Wednesday is when we do our first review of Selling for Dummies. So go ahead and grab the book. I'll put the link in our blog for Cartoon Art Center. So that is, you can either go to cartoonartcenter.com. It'll take you to the meetup group. And I have the link there. You can go directly to my website at aliciadianne.com. And if you check out the about and info and you go to our blog, then you'll be able to see all of my posts about it. And I'll be posting this up there soon. But thank you guys so much for joining me for this. And welcome to Book Club. We're going to be starting session 2 in 2 weeks. So go ahead and grab the book and join me for our next reading, okay? I'm announcing the start of our reading next week. So I'm announcing the assignment for next week, and we're doing the review in 2 weeks, okay? So thank you so much for joining me. I love you guys for watching. And I will see you tomorrow for Studying the Masters right here at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So until I see you tomorrow, be grateful, live balanced, be yourself, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.